Okay, hello everyone. We start our online event, The Freedom of Expression on the Net, Possible Implications of Banning Mr. Trump from Social Media. And I would like to start with 3 citations. First, it is a citation by our former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. One can argue endlessly whether there was a decision to ban Trump on Twitter and Facebook by worrying about security or violating the principles of freedom of speech. This discussion is really important, but it's obvious that the word censorship loses its negative connotation when it comes to the security of our existence. The second, I know that Article 10, European Convention on Human Rights, says that everyone has the right to freedom of expression, and also users, not tech executives, should decide what constitutes free speech online. Social media companies aren't very good at moderating speech, so why do we ask them to? Julian Yokarchev. And also, I would like to speak today about the latest events concerning not only banning of Trump, but also the impact of coronavirus situation, etc., on the freedom of speech on the net. And there are many questions arising through this context. The freedom of expression on the net, how much the social media can be expected to self-regulate, plus what borders need to exist between censorship and freedom on the net, taking in mind local and global context. Also, I would like to speak about the impact coronavirus pandemic. It's, to my mind, it's accelerating a dramatic decline in global internet freedom. For the 10th consecutive year, users have experienced an overall deterioration in their rights, and the phenomenon is contributing to a broader crisis for democracy worldwide. And I would like to speak about 3 main tendencies within this corona context. There are 3 notable trends punctuated an especially dismal year for internet freedom. First, political leaders use the pandemic as a pretext to limit access to information. The second, authorities cited COVID-19 to justify expanded surveillance powers and the development of new technologies that were once seen as too intrusive. The public health crisis has created an opening for digitization, collection and analysis of people's most intimate data without adequate protections against abuses. It is very important how to protect our personal private space on the net. And the third trend has been the transformation of slow-motion splintering of the internet into all-out race toward cyber sovereignty, with each government imposing its own internet regulation in a manner that restricts conviction, risk retribution from the world's most technologically advanced security forces. Also, global internet freedom has declined for the 10th consecutive year. 26 countries caused worsened during this year coverage period, while 22 countries registered net gains. The largest declines occurred in Myanmar and Kyrgyzstan, followed by India, Ecuador and Nigeria. A record number of countries features deliberate disruption to internet service. On the positive side, Sudan and Ukraine experienced the largest improvements, followed by Zimbabwe. A raft of court rulings not up human rights online in countries rank free, partly free, not free alike, and the United States ranked 7th overall, while Iceland was once again the top performer. For the 6th consecutive year, China was found to have the worst conditions for internet freedom. Also, for me, this event is critically important because it's like a trial to, so to say, organize and to start the development of internet studies in on the post-Soviet space also. And it's a great pleasure of mine to present the first speaker, Professor William Dutton. He's emeritus professor at the University of Southern California, and he was the founding director of the Oxford Internet Institute and first professor of Internet Studies at the University of Oxford and fellow of Balliol College. More recently, he held a professional chair of media information policy at Michigan State University, and now currently he is Oxford Martin Fellow and Balliol Fellow at the University of Oxford, where he supports the computer science department's Global Cybersecurity Capacity Center. Bill, you are welcome to speak about this topic. And Bill,
Okay.
please, okay?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, wonderful.
Okay. I'll share my screen in one moment. In fact, I'll start trying to do that now. Can you enable my screen sharing, please?
Так, мы должны права Биллу. Please, just a minute, we'll provide the rights to demonstrate the screen.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Elena, for the introduction and also putting together such a real diverse group of individuals. It's fantastic. Let me try sharing right now.
Just a minute. Вообще права передать там есть. Just a minute. We would like to transmit it. Very difficult Zoom version with all possibilities. Just a minute.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Talk. Yes.
Just a minute.
I'm glad you mentioned how complex what's going on in the world with the vaccine wars and protests across Russia and what's going on in Myanmar and everything else. It seems somewhat strange to be talking about a couple of tweets in the United States. But I think it's a nice focus and allows us to actually address. I think it'll probably be impossible for the discussion and the debate to stay focused on that one issue, but it does give a focus, a concrete focus to discuss. It does. So we'll see. Okay, should I try again?
Yes, it's okay.
That sounds better.
Okay. Okay, let's start. I see in your presentation, yes, it's okay. Let's start, Bill. Yes, it's okay with your presentation.
Okay. First of all, I was listed in the UK. I'm living in the UK, but I am an American, and I am only giving you my personal reflections, which are not representative of views in the United States or the UK, and perhaps no other country in the world as well. But so be it. I'm willing to take critical comments and so forth, but these are my views, and we'll see what people think. I want to start where you probably would never imagine me starting, which is way back in 1989, when I was a researcher at the University of Southern California, and I had been a director of the PIC program, but I was in the UK. But I went in California. I helped advise the people developing the first electronic city hall, which was called the Public Electronic Network, or PIN. And it was one of the first things that followed. At that time, in the late 80s, we had BBSs, bulletin board systems, and not one bulletin board system. These were systems that people would dial up on a modem locally and have very interesting conversations, but not hardly one would last more than a day if it were not moderated in some way. This was the time of personal computers in households. The government owned this system, and it was a plain old text-based computer conferencing system. But they did engage a lot of citizens in conferences that were a range of conferences that were quite stimulating, and they did end up in some useful results, like talking to the homeless. They led to the conference led to the establishment of what they called swashluck, which was installing showers and washing machines for the homeless at the beach. And it was anchored by the strict instructions of the city attorney in a strict interpretation of the U.S. First Amendment, so that there was no moderation or no censorship of anyone. Yet they did have problems with content moderation. That was no, but they tried to deal with it informally. So they had many users would talk to each other. A user might email another user and say, that was really a rude thing you said to such and such, and they would try to basically influence one another. And then they had what they called the den mother notes. The manager of the system was a former student of mine, and she would write people saying, one famous case I remember was some gentleman was probably drinking too much about 2 or 3 in the morning and threatened the life of a council member. And so she called him the next morning and said, do you know Mr. Such and Such? Last night when you were online, you threatened the life of Councilman such and such. And he said, well, I was very upset, but no, I didn't realize that. And then she would walk him through, if you'd like to remove your statement, here's how you do it. And so she would talk to people and how they would regulate themselves and remove their own statement. So eventually they introduced moderated, they tried to moderate the forums, and it created a huge controversy within the PIN system, but they were introducing moderated forums alongside unmoderated forums. But I think the real death of the PIN system was caused by the rise of the internet. Why would people stay on a local network when they could network with the world? And an open global system was more exciting to almost all the people online. And there were issues, but what it really showed me is that these issues are not new. The issues over civility, norms for use, the rules of order, censorship, or any prior constraint on speech were very, very evident even at that time. Okay, the Twitter suspension of the real Donald Trump. If they were based by the explanation from Twitter itself on 2 tweets that were said to have justified his suspension for glorifying violence or incitement to violence. If you read those tweets, it's very problematic that they could be judged as glorifying violence or incitement to violence. It's a wild interpretation. I don't think anybody's ever read the tweets that Twitter cites as the rationale for the suspension. I think the decision was actually based on the fact that the degree of polarization over the Capitol Hill disaster of 6 January, which led to a number of protesters storming the Capitol and it turning into a mob and a violent mob in some instances. So that the panic over that and the polarization of opinion about what happened on Capitol Hill, I think led Twitter to feel that they had to take some action, which I think was divorced from actually what Trump had actually tweeted. It had no connection as far as I can tell. But it did support the lion's share of what Twitter staff would like and what users probably of Twitter liked. There was a lot of support for suspending Trump, and it basically fell whether people disliked Trump or liked Trump in terms of their opinion about this suspension. It's important to note, and I think it may not be clear to everyone, although I know many of you are much more legal scholars of social media than I am. But the First Amendment in the U.S. only applies to government. It does not apply to private individuals or private companies like Twitter. So Twitter is not restricted by the First Amendment. But it does. It should act as a neutral intermediary. And of course, as it increasingly moderates communication between users online and various others, it's more and more questionable if it's acting as a neutral intermediary. And so there's a lot of debate on Section 230 of the Section 230, which basically creates a system for not holding the intermediary responsible for what users say online. And I think the question to my mind is whether by suspending Donald Trump and other users permanently, for example, and maybe on precarious grounds, that they may lose, in fact, I think they should probably lose the coverage of Section 230. They're no longer acting as a neutral intermediary. Now there was an analogous locking of accounts by other social media, such as Facebook, and Facebook has established since then an oversight board where they've asked their oversight board to look at their blocking of Trump to get some other effect. Now, what you also see is the appearance of the Streisand effect. If they had not blocked Trump, I don't think there would have been much of an impact. And he was leaving office anyway very soon. And here we are talking about Donald Trump. Barbara Streisand tried to censor coverage of a wedding at her home, and ended up creating a viral storm of discussion about it. So I think every effort to censor usually ends up with the exact opposite level of attention over this. So I think the suspension by Twitter was unwise, not only for Twitter, but I think for the future of freedom of expression. I'll try to speed up, but I think the cause of this is based on a few myths and also some realities. The myths are that some people believe freedom of expression and assembly are politically biased. That is, it favors the right or it favors the left in another country. I think that any person with common sense would see that whatever the case might be at this moment in a particular country, that over time, this will change. And then if you undermine freedom of expression and assembly for one political pole of a polarized country, then it's very likely to come back and haunt you in the future. So I think reasonable people would not want to support freedom of expression, even if it seemed to support a particular group at a particular time. And it's also based on this myth that social media are causing polarization, such as through echo chambers and filter bubbles. My research on how people use the internet completely suggests that echo chambers and filter bubbles are widely exaggerated, because people who are interested in politics and use the internet consult multiple sources and even multiple sources online. It's also based on a myth that media and new media are like the old, in the early days of television, people thought television was like a magic bullet or a hypodermic needle. If people saw something on television, they'd immediately believe it and act on it. It's not the case. And that misinformation is a new problem. No, not at all. That was the whole reason why search engines were developed in the first place. People couldn't find good information online. There is a confirmation bias. Polarization is a problem. I think polarization is shaping the poor use and the poor regulation of Twitter and other. And civility and toxicity are the problems. So the new media are still interpersonally novel, and we still don't know how to regulate interpersonal conversation and interpersonal civility online, and I think we need to think about that. And let's see, I'll finish up in 1 minute, which is, I think there are lessons to learn. I think there is some wisdom in most cliches, and I think power corrupts is one of them. I think that Twitter should have more accountability and more people to talk to about what their decisions might be, because I think they made a mistake here. There are enduring concerns over online censorship, content moderation. These are not new, and I think it's embarrassing that it's been decades where we know this is an issue, and we haven't really resolved it, and how to deal with it. Partisan polarization is threatening the status of neutral intermediaries, and I think rather than discussing the wisdom of Section 230, I think that the discussion should shift to who should be protected by Section 230 in the United States. And in other countries, I think similar issues of what level of protection, who's really a neutral intermediary online, and what platform is not neutral. And then focus more research and policy analysis on how users can moderate themselves, on how good information, Alina, you mentioned health information. People in the medical professionals cannot assume that everyone simply believes them and looks at their material. They have to produce, communicate, promote, and facilitate access to what they have to say in better ways than those who want to spread misinformation. We need to spend much more research on refining search engines, media literacy, online access, social networking, because they are empowering users in a major way, which I call the fifth estate, and I won't talk about it here. But and questioning, not allowing deterministic notions to dominate how people think about the internet, and such as echo chambers and filter bubbles. They're just not empirically sustainable. But we need to understand polarization, which is, I think, not just in the United States, but globally, shaping access and use of information in negative ways. So I think, to finish, is that I really think that online freedom of expression and content moderation are becoming, they should be at the very top of our agenda for global multidisciplinary research on the internet. They dropped out of focus, and I think with Obama's social media campaign, but later with Cambridge Analytica and with Twitter use by major players, it's returning, and it's got to be a focus. We don't know how to deal with it in ways that will protect freedom of expression going forward. Okay, that's
Thank you very much for your very interesting and challenging, personally for me, report. And now maybe questions. We have got a couple of minutes, not more, because it's very strict time management of this event. Please, colleagues, if you have got some questions to Professor Dutton, you are welcome. No question, but maybe from my part, one question is for you, Bill. What do you think about what is the most now critically important for freedom of expression within the coronavirus context? What's your opinion?
Oh, well, I think I would just repeat that I think that with respect to coronavirus, in every country, I think, is having concerns over whether or not the high quality information is getting to people. People are getting the best quality information. And I think it's a problem in academia, it's a problem in the medical field as well. I think people just assume that I'm the authority, people will listen to me, and there's no reason, and that if more people are looking at bad information than what I have to say, then there's, they demonize the people, the bad information or the bad speakers. They should be working much harder to get their information to the public. They cannot assume that they are somehow anointed to, and that everybody will follow their ideas. But so I think facilitating, promoting, and informing. People need to learn how to use the new media, social media and Twitter and blogging and all the mass media in much more effective ways to get out high quality information and not just give out that ground to people who might be more amateurs or malicious.
Thank you very much. We'll thank you for your speech. And now I would like to present our next speaker. Okay, one question, please. Pavel Kutuyev, Kiev, Ukraine, please. Okay,
thank
Pavel,
you.
you're welcome.
First of all, Professor Goroshko, let me thank you for this wonderful seminar with such distinguished speakers. And I really enjoyed listening to Professor Dutton's very thorough presentation and analysis. And well, I'm a Ukrainian citizen, and I'm a Ukrainian sociologist, so I don't have a stake in kind of domestic American political strife or political debate. But on the other hand, we all know that the United States is a nation which is a trendsetter in many spheres, including those of social platforms, because major social platforms are based in the United States and owned by American citizens and American corporations. So from what I've understood from your presentation, you're kind of slightly critical as far as banning Donald Trump from social media is concerned. So my question is as follows. As far as I know, again, based on kind of liberal mainstream American media, Donald Trump has had a quite long history of distorting facts, of lies, of misinterpretations, including those related to coronavirus treatment. I've also been following quite a few Telegram channels voicing opinion of extreme fringe rights like Proud Boys. And these channels are kind of sympathetic to Donald Trump. Again, my question is, do you think that banning Trump from social media will have such a dramatic effect, given his history of, let's say, dubious statements? Because to me, banning Trump, well, he is no ordinary net citizen. Of course, at that moment, he was the president of the most powerful nation in the world. But still, Facebook and other social medias routinely ban users who spread hatred, who spread like child pornography, drug trafficking, and so on and so forth. So what makes Donald Trump's case so special, apart from the number of his followers and his political clout? Thank you.
I think the different, well, first of all, I think unlawful speech should be moderated. And so terrorist, any incitement of violence, so forth. If it's unlawful, then it's legitimate to moderate that. But I think in the case of Trump, and in this particular instance of suspension, there's not, it's not unlawful to be wrong and to be misinforming people, whatever. It's speech, and also political speech has a special purpose, special protection in the United States context, and I think in every country, political speech is treated differently than. For example, I think some of what's going on in the medical area now around COVID, there's much more restriction than there is in political speech, although it becomes somewhat political. So, so because it's political and it's because it's not unlawful, and I don't want the media are already making more out of misinformation than anyone would gain from Twitter. They are the ones who are publicizing misinformation. They direct people to better information. So people are working harder to identify misinformation and correct it. But I don't want the media or government or big tech companies to decide what is true. I would rather the internet itself provide enough information that people can choose from themselves what to listen to and what to account for. Most of my research suggests that users are not as dumb as people think, and that actually the people who are very interested in politics read everything they can about a political issue, and they don't just take what Donald Trump tweets as. If you're polarized and you want to confirm what you already believe, well, you can find material that will confirm your beliefs online. But that's not, the problem is polarization. It is not social media. Social media are not causing our problems. It's the polarization of the public that feeds poor use of social media.
Okay, thank you. We have out of time. Thank you for your very detailed answer, Bill. And now I would like to present our next speaker. Our next speaker is Mikhail Minakov. It's Ukraine and Italy simultaneously. And Mikhail is a senior advisor, Kennan Institute, Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars, and editor-in-chief of Kennan Focus Ukraine. Mikhail, you are deeply welcome to get the floor, please. Mikhail, are you here? Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Elena, and thank you very much for inviting me to speak today. I support most of the points that Professor Dutton has made, and I really like this sober, realistic approach to the case. Although my analysis would probably come with a different perspective, so here we could see some deviation in the position. I'm looking at this case, the case of corporate social networks banning the head of government from political philosophy point of view. So, and I'm trying to use this case also as a symptom of the crisis that brings out, that manifests the crisis of contemporary capitalism. So in my opinion, what I see, contemporary capitalism is undergoing yet another restructuring. When the West-led First World survived the competition with and the self-destruction of the socialist bloc 30 years ago, the Washington Consensus has become a hegemonic model for all-encompassing development of the nations around the world. And this model, in addition to its neoliberal economy, consumerist culture, and democratic politics, was also offering an ideal structure of the life world. In terminology of this model, ideal contemporary nation should consist of a good society, a good politics, and a good economy, as guiding principles of coexistence of the social, political, and private spheres of human existence. A good society is an ideal type society that strives at granting its members to achieve happy life in ongoing process of debate on political ideas and actions against the core values, equality, democracy, and sustainability. A good politics is another ideal type, this time of political system, that ensures that power groups and centers are under democratic control. Authorities cannot control freedom of expression and communication, and public governance is not corrupt. And both a global society and good politics, well, they need a good economy, which is private sector with ideal balance of private interest and public good that respects happiness of people, good governance regulations, protecting its constituencies against distress, insecurity, or calamity. And this sector, the private sector, behaves as a good corporate citizen in return for the respect of private property and for privacy. This ideal model is of ideological nature, definitely, which means it is real in terms of human intentions and collective practices and orientations. However, the capitalist system is known for its super contradictory development whichever school of scholars we take, all direct at the fact that evolution of capitalism is going from one crisis to another. And the history of political economy shows that these crises are connected with the creative destruction, which first manifests itself in ideological distress. And this current case of social networks against the head of government is providing us into the core of the contemporary contradictions. So I would say that the current crisis of capitalism can be seen as confrontation of the driving forces in social, public, and private spheres. So, as you can see, I start with the assumption that good society, good politics, and good economy can exist in three spheres, public, private, and social, as well as cooperate there, but do not interfere in the exclusive business of each other, which means that individual pursuit of happiness in a vibrant, diverse social society can peacefully coexist. Public equality before law and freedom of communication is respected by all, and the legitimate pursuit of private gains by private means is granted unquestionably. However, if the actors from these three spheres do not respect the boundaries of each other, they corrupt the order and lead to the crisis, which is the state of creative destruction order that may lead to new, better or worse order. Schumpeter came with the term of creative destruction to develop Marx's idea of specific capitalist self-contradictory development into an understanding that constant creation of contradictions between old, new, and newer economic forms and processes is the precondition of capitalism existence. It requires, as Schumpeter was saying, the perennial gale of creative destruction. Even though Schumpeter defined this concept in 40s, so in totally different historical context, the general idea is now tested in the situation when corporate sector intervenes into the public and social spheres at unprecedented levels that can lead to new order with the new capitalism denying public freedoms, rule of law, and social autonomy. The case of President Trump's social networks ban represents a symptom of the current capitalist crisis. This ban, even if one accepts the explanation that this ban was driven by the will for defense of public order, basically for the public good, shows that private organization can interfere into the core of public politics, into communication of government and citizenry. I disagree with those who call this act of prohibition of the ban a censorship. Censorship is a policy of censorship is a policy of government to control political competition by public tools through public institutions. The social networks ban on the head of government is also a form of non-freedom, but another one. It is not censorship, and censorship in any possible way is an acceptable tool to defend the public good. Censorship is exclusive tool of unfreedom and public bad, and there is no justification for use it in any other way. In the social networks ban on the head of government case, the private sector enters into the exclusive public sphere space of action. If this interference is driven by private gain, then it is just another form of corruption. If it is indeed driven by extended understanding of the so-called corporate citizenship, then we witness an attempt of a new feature of the becoming order. The corporate citizenship, from an element of good economy and good society, turns into a source of risk for good politics and good society. Corporate citizenship that used to be a factor of legitimate participation in private-public partnership is turned into a highly questionable issue because of processes that recently took over the world. Today, a considerable part of our communication in private, social, or even political niveaus is done through these so-called social networks, but which are not social actually. They are private communication channels where rules are rules of private sphere. They regard service provider and individual user of these services. So in a way, they pretend to be social. Sometimes they even present themselves as public sphere, but they are not. So here we have this basic contradiction. So basically, none of the branches of power, for example, can remain immune from the corporate influence done through the so-called social networks. So to rebalance the system and grant that civic freedoms and political communication remains free, ownership of social networks and new media must be put into the rule of law-driven legal context, where neither private owners, nor citizens, nor legitimate public institutions are not deprived of their rights, freedoms, and functionalities. Legislation should also deal with other political and criminal aspects of life in social networks, where bullying, cancel culture acts, misinformation should be persecuted in accord with the public law, not with the private agreements, as the social network owners try to do. I conclude with the statement that free expression and assembly must remain intact by government, by corporations, and by toxic groups of bullies. And here I spoke in my personal capacity, not as a representative of any organization or group. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mikhail. It's very interesting, and as I understand, we're expecting a new form of our society. We can speak about post-fake society, maybe. I am kidding, but sometimes I am thinking about it. Please, any questions to Mikhail, please? You are welcome with your questions. No. Oh, Pavel, please, Pavel Kutuyev, a professor of sociology from Kiev Polytechnic Institute. You are welcome, Pavel, please. Pavel, please initiate your mic. Mic, please. As I see, you are speaking without, oh, okay, mic. Switch on your
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Mikhail, for your brilliant analysis. I have kind of down-to-earth question. What your policy proposals would be based on your kind of academic analysis? And what steps governments should undertake, U.S. government in particular, to kind of protect freedom of speech while protecting citizens from insurrection, mob violence, and hatred and extremist groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Pablo. I'm actually working in this expert group that comes up with ideas, and I think the only viable way is to work at some sort of United Nations umbrella, where governments would come up with certain common rules that would be applicable in all the countries around the world. The problem is that by the means of only one government, also even if it's the United States government, the biggest and the richest country, still it's not enough. Social networks today are a global power, and these corporations are not national anymore. So what this case, the social networks ban on the head of government shows that it can be repeated in any other country. And this should not happen. Citizens and government should stay in permanent communication, whichever this communication is. If this communication leads to some criminal or illegal action, then it should be reviewed by proper law enforcement agencies and court, not by some corporations. So that's the principle, but of course I would think that some sort of like abiding agreement of members of United Nations organization would create a good legal network context that would let this case never happen again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Is the answer. Thank you very much. Sorry, we have no space and time for the next answer. Thank you very much, Mikhail, for your second input in my events. I'm very pleased. Thank you very much. And now our next speaker, I would like to present our speaker from Moscow, Russia, Associate Professor Sergei Davidov. It is the National Institute of Economics, and he is an editor of wonderful book about Runet, spring edition, and now he is speaking about the president's censorship and moral authority, some observation on the discourse of Russian discussions of blocking Donald Trump on social media. Sergei, you are deeply welcome, please.
Thank you very much. I decided to speak about some consequences of this case in Russian discussions, because as it was already mentioned in previous reports, this case has a dual nature, because on one hand it is a domestic political case of the United States, and at the same time this is a story of an international effect, and the case of Russia is one of many cases that can be viewed as somehow important. What are the reactions and opinions in Russia about that? I would say that, of course, there are some arguments pro and contra, and it is interesting that there are some arguments pro and contra from the various political sides. From the state side and from the oppositional side as well. If we will somehow analyze these statements, we will see that representatives from the government are basically against the blocking of Trump, and they say that there are many bad consequences of this decision. They speak different arguments and different words, but in general it is the consolidated position, I would say. For example, I will give several examples. For example, Dmitry Medvedev, former president and vice and prime minister, and now deputy chair of the Security Council, and which is important, the first politician of such high level that had his personal Twitter account in Russia. He said that this case cannot be understood. He said that Trump should not be blocked without any legal case behind that, and there is no regulation which is needed, and this is very bad. And on his opinion, this is position of the corporation which plays on the democratic side, on the side of Democrats. Also, Medvedev said that he feels not comfortable in the social network environment. He says that, for example, his Twitter was marked as government Twitter, but it is his personal Twitter account, and he can do nothing in this, and will not be surprised if sometimes he will be blocked as well. The other famous politician from Russia which commented on that is Ramzan Kadyrov, president of Chechen Republic, who was blocked earlier and he gave a comment in the Telegram account, and he said that we are together with Trump, we look like each other, because he blocked me earlier, and now he is blocked himself, so he should respect democracy and rights of people more, and if he did, it would not have happened with him personally. And speaking from the other side, I would like to mention several statements. For example, Alexei Navalny, maybe the most famous oppositional politician for now, gave a big comment, and he stands on the same side of, at the side of Trump, at the side of Kadyrov and Medvedev and other state representatives, but he gave different arguments. The main arguments were that this decision was emotional, and this is the dual politics for one side. Navalny received many harmful comments, and nobody was banned for that. And there are many persons that are out of any legal space. For example, it says Putin, Maduro, and Medvedev, they should be banned, but they are not banned. And the decision to ban Trump can finally lead to more reaction and more strict behavior in social networks from the government, especially from the Russian government. And not every oppositional politician agreed with Navalny. For example, Garry Kasparov even asked for a debate with him to prove that Twitter and other social networks had their right to act in such a way, and even in Navalny's group, Lyubov Sobol and some other persons said that the rules are rules, and even an American president should act in accordance with them. So what is the conclusion? The conclusion is that Russian discussion about Trump's ban on social media does not bring new substantive arguments, but leads to a shift in emphasis and some new concerns. And all the participants of the discussion have concerns, different concerns, but they do have them. For example, state representatives are fighting for power in social networks and fighting for control. And here, for example, on Facebook and Twitter, they do not, they understand that it will be hard for them to take absolute control in this international environment, and so they feel and express their non-comfortable feelings. But at the same time, they feel that this case gives them more arguments for control in this environment in Russia. So they get benefit, but they do not express it. So their position seems to be united, but it is not united. There are arguments pro and contra inside. And As for the opposition, we see arguments pro and arguments contra, and persons that express one position from these two. And so the opposition is split, but they have serious concerns as well. So also I would like to stress that there is no adequate language for discussing this absolutely new situation, and some old cliches and words are used, such as, for example, censorship, because it's not censorship, and freedom of speech. It's mostly not a problem of freedom of speech in traditional discourse, at least, but this work on words and terms is going on when the problem is discussed, as we can see from the Russian discourse, and with the, I would say that Trump's case is a big and important story for pushing this discussion on the national level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's extremely interesting for me because I don't know the Russian context. As I understand, we must invent a new discourse for new, so to say, context, as you see, and terminology, etc., must be invented in order to describe and to evaluate this situation properly. Thank you, Mirage. Please, questions to Sergey. You are welcome. Questions, please, colleagues. You see it? I don't see questions from any. No questions? Yes. Okay. If it's no questions, thank you very much, Sergey. For the very interesting report. And now I would like to present our next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Giovanni Ercolani. It's Murcia, Spain, and the topic is the prological gaze, deconstructing the securitization processes and the market of anxiety. And I would like to, it's a great pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Giovanni Ercolani. It's Murcia University, Spain. He's a researcher at the Society and Culture Research Group. He has been lecturing on international security issues and cultural and political anthropology in Italy, United Kingdom, Spain, Portugal, France, China, etc., etc., etc. He's a specialist in social cultural anthropology, political sciences, security studies, international relations. Giovanni, you are welcome, and we start with you, please. Giovanni?
Ciao. Can you hear me?
And now we must initiate your presentation, yes?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Just for an introduction, because maybe my presentation, the title will sound strange. I can say that the Trump Twitter, no one said, but was considered by the company Twitter a security issue. So if they let the Twitter arrive to the audience, this was probably creating an insecure to threat. And basically my presentation deal with this concept that can be applied generally to what's happened to Trump Twitter. Okay. I don't see my presentation. I don't know if you can show to the people this is.
Yes, just okay. This presentation, just a minute, Giovanni, just a minute, okay?
Yeah.
We are speaking, yes, the presentation. Okay, it's okay, just okay. Yes, understand. Okay. Your presentation, Giovanni, is ready to view? Yes.
Yeah, I would like, I don't know how can manage my presentation, because I would like to move the pages.
Okay, but tell me and we'll move. I don't know how to. delegate the right to
Okay, turn the page. Okay.
I gave the first page.
Okay, and we talk about security and security, but talk about anxiety. My point is that we were born, okay, with this emotion. Since we were born, okay, it's the first emotion we experience when we leave the body of our mother. So it's not fear, but basically it's anxiety. And it's an emotion that will stay with us until we are going to live this life. And just recently I was reading how the body, for example, died 6-7 minutes before the brain, so the brain still continues to live this anxiety, asking where we're going. Please, next. So for the psychoanalyst Umberto Gariberti, mankind has lived the world always through the description. I define the description of the world, okay, as a capital, referring to Bourdieu. Okay. So mankind, and I use now the expression, the concept of obedience generated by Giovanni Sartori, lives inside the reality managed by the social media and internet companies. Maybe during the Middle Age, the human being was living inside the reality constructed by the power of the church. Okay, until recently we live inside the power of science, and now we know that this reality is constructed by the social media and internet companies, and basically we can say that we are back, and much more now in this COVID time, we are back to the cave of Plato, because we perceive the reality was going on outside our flat just through the video. Please, next. So what is now the risk society, referring to the back concept, okay? We live inside this market anxiety. This market anxiety basically, it can be like what's happened the event of Capitol Hill. During the event of Capitol Hill, this was like an arena where different power, knowledge, security structures, and social media internet companies were competing with their own capital, okay, to assert their security knowledge capital. So on one side we had President Trump, one side we have Twitter companies, and all of them were competing to describe what was a situation there, okay? But basically it's about power. So this security knowledge capital is fabricated by the process of regression of the risk of. What is going now in international relation security studies is that during the Cold War, we were living in a reality where the source of insecurity was the Homo Sovietics, basically was the Soviet Union. So we had a very precise image of the enemy or the source of insecurity. This image became less clear after 2001 with the event, the biggest event of terrorism, because even the definition of terrorism is not very clear. And now we are living in a situation where the official discourse of the biggest security organization like NATO became the risk of. And no one can define what is the risk of. The risk of what? The risk of energy security, the risk of pandemic right now. So now we are living in a moment of the risk of pandemic. Perfect. So now my research question in this presentation is this security knowledge capital can be considered a legitimacy knowledge or is something else? And the epistemological tool that I'm going to use is the anthropological case, which aims to produce legitimacy knowledge and emancipation. Basically, is what Professor Dutton did at the beginning of his presentation when he was questioning about how many people they read the Twitter of Trump. So it was deconstructing a kind of official narrative published by Twitter. Please, next. So this is basically the definition of legitimacy knowledge. is a security knowledge presented by an expert. Okay. So the presentation basically investigates the production of legitimate security knowledge, considers security as a myth, argues that the security process is a sacred political spectral ritual, produce security knowledge capital, is an anthropological place, and makes large use of social media and internet companies, and presents the epistemological tool of the anthropological gaze. Please, the next one. So this anthropological gaze, this is based on the reading of Foucault, and is the difference between the birth of clinic, basically is the difference between the gaze, the clinical gaze, and the clinical glance, is to provide a critical and emancipatory reading of security issue politics, to avoid the danger of the security paradox, and to avoid the fundamental production error, and to contribute to the production of legitimate security knowledge. Basically, Twitter banning Trump, what it did, they produced a security paradox, meaning they were perceived the Twitter of Trump as a huge security threat. So basically, they end up in the trap of the fundamental attribution error. And basically they produce a kind of knowledge about what's going on, about one another. Next one, please. So this is the presentation organized with security, the macro society, process of civilization, anthropological place, and my conclusion. Next one, please. So what I consider security, I consider is a myth referring to Roland Barthes. So at a language level, security comes from Latin, is a technology that means without anxiety, it's not without fear. Fear, we know what we are fearing, What is we are afraid of. With anxiety, it's just another sensation. So this one became a meta-language when a structure of power and knowledge, in this case can be NATO, but it can be Trump, but in this case can be even if Twitter, as a company, that's considered a security threat like the Twitter of Trump. Or NATO can define a security issue, the energy security or a terrorism, or right now we can see that all the world is using a war terminology to face and to describe the pandemic of COVID, and even if you use in the bulletin of war, so every 2 or 3 days a week, for example in Spain or in France or in Italy, we have the King of Spain, the President of France or the Prime Minister of Italy come out, in front of the TV, and they show they basically they express the talk like a bulletin of war. Next one, please. Here, this is basically what is, I define the market of anxiety. The market of anxiety is an arena, as I said before, where different power structures they compete for the power. Basically, the political aim is to retain power, and the strategic aim is to win the battle of narrative. The same idea to win the battle of narrative is conducted by NATO. So basically, we have all different structures that are interested to distill anguish. And this anguish is part, basically right now, is the mosaic of the human condition. Now, in this COVID time, anguish is everywhere. And this anguish society is spread through the use of social media and internet companies which operate as gatekeepers. This is basically, again, I go back to the presentation of Professor Dato, was the Twitter. They operate even if a gatekeeper saying you can go or you can't go out, to the public. Please, next one. So basically, NATO or Twitter, they operate what is called in security studies a process of civilization. What is in language theory is called a speech act. Through the civilization process, the issue is presented as an essential threat, requiring emergency measures and justifying action outside the normal bounds of political procedure. The securitization process produces what I call security knowledge capital, using again Bourdieu concept, which is the paradigm of reference, interpretation, and the protocol of action. The next one, please. However, the security knowledge capital, and now is the risk of, is converted into technological knowledge which confer power to all who operate into the apparatus. This security knowledge basically stripped out of its political nature and is not open to political debate. Is a knowledge which originates from technology, and becomes the model for the political construction and confirming the supremacy of the technological decision over the political decision. Next one, please. And another point is very interesting, that this suggestion process is converted in a rite, or a ritual, which has two forces. The first one is a typical force, which participates in the reinforcement and the regression of the identity and the status quo of the power, knowledge, and the structure. Basically, Twitter, silencing the Twitter of Trump, reinforced his power position and is forcing his own identity. And after this, the second force is called a centrifugal force, basically spread emotional contagion, broadcast panic. There is a very good book about panic broadcasting brought by an American professor coming back to the Orwell, the 30th October 1938 radio program broadcasted in the United States, transmit an alarm signal, interpolate subject, this is very interesting, this is author, and produce blind trust. So basically people trust like blind people to their political leader. The last point is very much is produced basically during ethnic conflict, but now is the same with all this COVID situation where people basically trust completely the political leader. Excuse me. And here again, the social media and internet companies play a bigger role for the right of the process. Please one. Next one. So basically, the security knowledge capital is converted in a moral, this is very important, and cultural system of reference, a program, of human behavior, a cultural protocol, and ideology. And I'm referring to Zizek. Basically, he produced an ideology too, where is the social reality in which we live. Next one, please. So my research question is a secret knowledge capital legitimate secret knowledge, or is something else, like ideology or technological knowledge? Next one. To give an answer, basically I don't have an answer, but I can just present a tool, that's I call the ontological case, which takes the position of the modern reader, the empirical reader, of the insider, stranger, outsider. Basically this is what did Professor Datton with his presentation, He read the event as an empirical reader. He said, let's see what's going on, let's read the data, let's see the results. Use and practice a clinical case. This is interesting to emancipate the subject of the judicial process and challenge the power knowledge the structure. With this simple question: what is reality? What is relevant knowledge? What is security? What is basic security? What is basic against? Who provides security? And what methods can be undertaken to provide security? And after he adopted a cosmological outlook, which refers to the approach of back to risk society. Next one, please. And it's based on the question, what is the matter with you? And the insecurity event is read inside the wall of his power relation and outside the imposed paradigm of interpretation and action and the civilization process. Here you can go again, please, the next one. Just I want to go to the conclusion because I don't have enough time. So the conclusion is what the most important question that what your gaze should be directed to the power knowledge structure, like for example, in this case can be Twitter, is what do you want? Che vuoi? You demanded something to me, you asked me not to read Trump Twitter, but in reality what you are having through his demand. And basically I end up with what my professor at St. John's University used to say to me, because this media, Facebook and everything, they pretend to give you everything free of charge. He said, who give you a piece of cake for nothing? Only your grandmother. Next, please. So basically, I go back to my father, Karl Popper. Thank you for listening to me. Hope it was clear.
Thank you very much for very inspirational report, Giovanni. It's really very interesting, and especially not from the point of sociology of society, but its anthropological paradigm of analysis. Again, and please, any questions to Dr. Ercolani, you are welcome, but we have very restricted time. If any questions to, I don't...
Olena.
Okay.
Olena, I can send my PowerPoint presentation as a PDF format to everyone, so they can send me an email, I can send to them.
Okay, but it's okay because out of time now. I'd like to shift to our next speaker. It's Canada, Toronto, Valery Belyanin. It's very interesting also speech about to say and not to say, to ban or not to ban the case of Trump through psychotherapist lenses. And I also mentioned that we have been knowing each other with Valery Pavlovich more than about 20 or 25 years in the field of psycholinguistics, first of all. And Valery Pavlovich, you are deeply welcome to deliver your report. Please get the floor.
Can you please share my screen?
You have got this, it's automatic possibilities, the rights delegated to you. You can, so to say, you can go to this possibility to demonstrate your display. It's automatically.
Okay. Yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you very much. It's such an honor being in such a great company, and I'll tell about my point of view on this whole case. It's very controversial, I understand, so it will be my only view as a psychotherapist, as a psycholinguist. So I'll look into speech, thought, and behavior connections. I'll say what exactly was said by Trump, and can we judge a person by their words, who is behind the words, and should we ban his speech? It will be my answers. So speech, thoughts and feelings are very interrelated, but also behavior. Thoughts create feelings. Feelings create behavior, and behavior reinforces thoughts. So this is extremely important because behind the thoughts there is a person, and thoughts are embodied in the language, in the words, concrete, specific words. And emotions are also specific. There is anger, there is aggression, there is assertiveness. I work with all those feelings with my clients, and anger is hostility to imagine or perceive injustice. There is no justice in the world, but injustice is very popular with my clients. They want justice, they want, and aggression. Their needs were not met, and others are on the banning me from satisfying my needs. Others are in the way of my needs. That's what aggressive person thinks. There's also assertiveness, which I teach my clients, and it's talking in an open and direct way. It's talking in a way that somebody is heard, and it's dialogue. It's trying to understand. It's asking questions, and that's what I haven't seen in the President number 45. So what did he say exactly? Well, we'll never give up. Never is a word which indicates stress. We will not take it away. The theft was done. It's a lie. It's not that what happened. We can't let that happen. He's saying we instead of I. He is organizing someone. He is inducing. He is trying to help others to help him to make things to make them just. We fight like hell. That's what exactly he was saying, and that's what he was. Well, actually, he said that he will do this peacefully, but at the same time patriotic. It's a very controversial word in Russia and in the United States, and well, I won't go there. So we'll walk down the capital. It's okay to walk down, we're cheering, wonderful, but at the same time, never help and I see that his feelings create behavior, and he reinforces thoughts, and his words reinforce behavior. That's not just words. It's not everything we say. Words is words, but behind the words there is the personality, and after the words there follows behavior. So giant voice, longer to the future, he was treated unfairly, that's what he said, and then Twitter said, plans for future arms protests have already begun proliferating on and off Twitter. It's important for me that it's not only words that's happened behind the words, afterwards. And those American patriots, violent acts, that's why Twitter banned him from using their services. Well, Facebook said there is a risk of that something will happen there, and they want the peaceful transition of power. That peace and peaceful, these are opposites, and so Trump was only on one side, was not on the side of peaceful action. So can we judge a person by their words? Yeah, the Goldwater rule, when Kennedy was shot and Johnson became the president, and then there were elections, and then there was Barry Goldwater. Well, he lost 38%, and the magazine Fact asked, do you believe Barry Goldwater is psychologically fit to serve as president of the United States? Well, they asked more than 12,000 psychiatrists, and then they made a special issue, The Mind of Barry Goldwater, and more than 1,200, almost 1,200 psychiatrists said that he was psychologically unfit to be president. So then there was a case, and Barry Goldwater won, and American Psychiatric Association came up with Goldwater rule. It's unethical for a psychiatrist to offer professional opinion unless he or she conducted an examination and has been granted proper authorization for such statement. So can I judge Trump by what he said if he's not my client? Okay, so still a number of psychiatrists said malignant narcissism, brittle sense of self-worth, incipient dementia. Well, and then Mary Trump came up with a book, Too Much and Never Enough. I will not go in psychoanalysis, but she said how my family created the world's most dangerous man. Dangerous is the adjective she used to characterize her uncle. Intimidating, racist, and even he would not describe himself as such. He was acting like a racist. So it's not about words, it's about behavior. That's my point. So, and then BBC wrote that something violent happened, and Trump hinted it should happen. He wanted violence to happen. 47,000 tweets. Well, actually, definitely there is amendment number 1, the freedom of speech, and then 47,000 of tweets, and then real Donald Trump. So my point is, should we ban his speech? Well, there is we may demonize him, we may consider him being on the side of evil. Well, but the point is there is duty to warn alongside with the Goldwater rule, not to judge the person whom I haven't met, and the person who is not my client. There is a duty to warn. So a lot of psychiatrists said that he has dangerous mental illness. Wrote about this. And also, well, I would like to go into, I will not go to the history, but there was Tarasov case when there was the risk of the person of killing someone, and the psychiatrist warned the police, but he didn't warn the person who was eventually killed. So there is a duty to warn. When counsels become aware of the client's intent or potential to place others in clear or imminent danger, they use reasonable care to give threatened persons such warnings. as are essential to avert foreseeable dangers. So danger, and here are the names of the companies, Canon, Proud Boys, 3%, and others whom I, as a psychotherapist, perceive to be dangerous. If they are in office, I would do everything to work with them, to quiet them down, to work on their anger, to work on their emotions, their hurt feelings, their childhood traumas, etc. And I will try to caution as many people who are in contact with them about that dangerous, potential dangerous behavior, and I will form them if it's necessary. I will go with them to the hospital, and they will put them in for 3 days in the hospital environment, medicate them, whatever will be needed. I will do my best to help society to save themselves from dangerous people, because it's not only words, it's not only feelings, it's not only emotions, but it's the behavior that may follow these words and these feelings. And huge danger may be done. A lot of people may suffer, may be killed because they will believe that it's just words. No, it's not just words. That's my opinion. So there is duty to warn. The protective privilege ends when the public peril begins. And peril is a difficult word. It's legal, but it's hazard, jeopardy. The synonyms are the risk, threat, and the danger. When the danger begins, then we should protect the public. So the duty to warn and the magazine Psychology Today, which was published in February, there is treatment for narcissistic personality, and therapy can take up to 10 years for personality if they are narcissists. So it's quite a lot. I'm not quite sure that all of them will go through this. I know I don't have too much time lagging behind. So what is freedom of speech? Should we promote freedom of speech? Should we restrict freedom of speech? Should we ban speech that may lead to violence? Well, that's the question that was posed by the organizers of the conference, as far as I understand. And my answers, my personal answers, not as a representative of society, psychotherapist, my own private practice experience, and my own views as a psycholinguist, and I'm just a citizen of peaceful Canada, where we're just every morning I was looking on the screen, what else was said by Trump, what did he do, oh my God, when will this end? Most of my Canadian friends were just devastated by what was happening in the United States. Should we promote freedom of speech? Definitely. Should we restrict freedom of speech? Maybe. But what about authoritarian regimes? What about social media? Should we regulate social media? Well, my answers are, authoritarian regimes, it depends. I'm not sure I will allow Vladimir Putin or Medvedev to be in social media after the regime will go away. Well, the only side about the social media, that's definitely not me to tell them what to do. Shall we regulate? Most likely. Should we ban the speech that may lead to violence? My answer is definitely yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Valery Pavlovich. It shows a different point of view, and for me, it testifies once more that internet studies is a rather multidisciplinary area of subject area. And please, as I understand from your reports, that it's better to ban the Trump in order to keep our psychological, so to say, security, maybe, or something concerning psychological state. But please, any questions to Professor Belyanin? If, please, if you have got Bill, you have got Bill Dutton, please. Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyway, that was fascinating. But I guess a very simple question is, almost many of the things you said have been said about Trump, and people, I mean, the idea that he's a narcissistic person, an extreme narcissistic personality, like many other politicians. But isn't that what is settled in the voting booth? And to censor some person over what you interpret him to have said versus what he actually said is quite dangerous. That it means it removes any kind of questions over moderation from what people actually say to what we think. Well, he actually meant something very different from this. I mean, isn't that for the voting booth and not for big tech companies to censor?
Please, Valery, initiate your mic.
Yeah, what happened on the 6th of January while revealed his, thoughts. And you can do content analysis, you can do sentiment analysis, and you can think whatever was interpreted in any way, but the reality, said that he was violent, he wanted to be violent.
Okay. Thank you. Now we have, so to say, we have no last time for break. I don't know what to do, but maybe we'll make a break for 5 minutes and then start our next round with Turkish context. But now it's, first of all, thank you very much for all speakers participating in the first round. It's a great pleasure for me to such kind of academic exchange on these events in concerning freedom of speech in our society, because it's a basic part of freedom of speech, freedom of expression on the net. And now 5-minute break, and we'll start from 3:35 from our Turkish colleagues. Now it's 5-minute break. Сейчас 5 минут перерыв. Тут можно... Все. Okay. And now we are again online, our second round of talk about the freedom of expression on the net. Please, I don't see the display. Okay, and now we are switching into Turkey and Turkish context. We are speaking about freedom of expression in social media through Turkish context, and it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our two speakers. Can Bilgili, Istanbul, Turkey. He's graduated from Istanbul University, journalist and public relations department, and he undertook many administrative assignments. Professor Bilgili performed sectoral research and constituted and monitors vocational standards in the areas of advertising, radio, and television. He gives courses on media industry, marketing, communication, culture industry, etc. And he is co-editor-in-chief of Journal of Media Critiques. And our next speaker, Mr. Ali Gizesh, and he graduated also from Journalism and PR Department and School of Press at the University of Istanbul, and now he continued his career as research director in public relations research evaluation companies, and also he is lecturer at the communication faculty at the University of Istanbul. Currently, he acts as research consultant at a G platform and also member of SMR, Vapor, Tuet, etc. Please, you are welcome to both to speak. Okay, Jen, you are welcome, and Ali, please.
Hi. Thank you very much, Olena.
Okay, thank you.
And first of all, we would like to thank you for inviting us to this event. And thanks to you, we came together with a community like this. We are happy to be with you. We listened to interesting speeches so far. And at the beginning of the conversation, I want to introduce you Mr. Ali Gizer, who is the best researcher in Turkey, according to me. Today, we will make a presentation together and try to explain about the freedom of expression on the net in Turkey. And we will share some information about online life in Turkey and evaluate freedom of expression in our online life. As you know, online life is under the threat of freedom in our country, as well as especially Giovanni know, as well as all over the world. And Turkey, a country that is difficult to talk about. You can guess the reasons. If you were in your country, we could talk more easily. We could talk more freely. But the situation here is like this for now. In this presentation, you will find some information about technologies and communications, especially structures and rules of legislation, terms of online freedom foundation, and the view of the country. Yes, you can start. Mr. Ali, are you ready?
Yeah, okay.
It's your turn to speak.
Thank you very much.
We can continue like our programs.
Okay. Thank you to all for being here. It's our pleasure, of course. May I share a short presentation for following some figures?
You have the rights to demonstrate your display. It's your we are delegating for all. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Can you follow it now? Okay.
Yes, everything is okay.
Actually, freedom of speech is a big issue, both for Turkey and the world, but I'll try to keep it short, because keeping the time, I think we have only 1 hour. You may also follow some figures about the usage of internet and social media both in Turkey and world, with that presentation
And today we will try to give an overview of the widespread use of internet and freedom of speech and free expressing ideas via the internet in Turkey. Internet usage has increased rapidly in Turkey in the last 20 years, actually, but it started with companies as opening their corporate websites only. Later in the 20s, 2000s, we witnessed an increasing use of chat software, old messengers. Maybe you can remember that we forget all of them. Programs such as ICQ, MIRC, Yahoo Messenger, we were all used that. And Yahoo and MyNet were the most widely used platforms in Turkey. But the Facebook in 2005 changed the use of internet in Turkey. Turkish people have started to use Facebook in very short time, and they started dropping other platforms like actually all over the world. But every time the internet was used extensively to find friends in Turkey and establish a sexual relationship. So sharing ideas by internet wasn't top of the purpose list of using internet for Turkish people. And political parties also and non-governmental organizations, NGOs, started using internet so lately. In these days, HTK, it's called Information and Communication Technologies Authority, government agency, known as started held a legal situation known as social media law in Turkey. The fight against crime committed in the internet environment. What's the crime? You will see entered into force October 1st, 2020. With that law, instead of blocking a criminal content, only the section containing the crime is removed. Social network providers from outside Turkey that have a capacity as a daily reach of more than 1 million in Turkey must report a representative to the state. Otherwise, it will be punished with a fine. When there's an application that requires blocking of access to a content, the social network provider organization must do so within 48 hours. Otherwise, it will be punished with a fine. The social network provider will implement decisions to remove or block access to content that has been reported to it. By ITCA. In addition, the social network provider will report 6 months Turkish reports covering statistical and categorical information regarding applications for blocking access to ITCA. Social network service providers will report their first reports to ITCA in June 2021, publish them on their website. So we have no time actually for social media freedom. I will pass this part quickly, but the point is internet is using very intensively in Turkey, but not as less and with limited purposes as old times. TÜİK is a statistical institute of Turkey, held an House of Information Technology IT Survey 2020, and announced the results. According to this survey, internet usage rate in Turkey nearly 80% for individuals, especially 16 to 74 age group. And increasing. When internet usage rate is analyzed by gender, it was observed that this rate was 85% for men and nearly 75% for women. The proportion of households that access the internet with broadband was 90% in 2020. This is an important point because you'll see infrastructure is rapidly increasing in Turkey. But why? Accordingly, 50% of the household had access to internet via fixed broadband, which belongs to state and sold to Qatar investors. And e-government services usage is about 50%. E-commerce is about 40%, but increasing in this pandemic days. And now we can have a look freedom of speech at the world, and in Turkey, the 65 countries covered in freedom on the net represents 78% of the world internet user population. Over 1.2 billion internet users, or 40% of global users, live in 3 countries, China, India, and United States, that span the spectrum of internet freedom environment from free to net free. The biggest freedom of speech declines took place in Ukraine, Egypt, and Turkey. In Ukraine, the government blocked major Russian-owned platforms, including the country's most widely used social network, VKontakte, and search engine Yandex on national security grounds. In Egypt, the authorities blocked over 100 websites, including that of the Qatar-based news network Al Jazeera, the independent news site Mada Masr, and the blogging platform Medium. And in Turkey, thousands of smartphone owners were arrested simply for having downloaded the encrypted communication application Bylock, which was available publicly through Apple and Google application stores, amid allegations that the application was used by those involved in the failed July 2016 coup attempt. Maybe you remember that. The Gezi Park rebellion was an important turning point for internet use for people in Turkey. It was called as Occupy Gezi at that time, but it was totally different from Occupy Wall Street movement. Gezi Park movement was a wave of demonstration and civil unrest in Turkey, began on May 2013, initially to contest the urban development plan for Istanbul Taksim's Gezi Park. The protests were sparked by outrage at the violent eviction of a sit-in at the park protesting the plan. Subsequently, supporting protesters and strikes took place across Turkey, protesting a wide range of concerns, at the core of which were issues of freedom of the press, expression, and assembly, as well as the Islamist government's erosion of Turkey's secularism, with the centralized, actually no centralized leadership beyond the small assembly that organized the original environmental protest. The protests have been compared to the Occupy movement and the May 1968 events. And social media played a key part in the protest, in the Gezi Park protest, because of that, Gezi Park is a turning point for the social media usage. Actually, civil society, civil organization, and the state has been started to use social media just before Gezi Park. During that period, the conflict between the AKP and its opponents was transferred to the social media. And the state started to control social media increasingly. At the beginning, they were only fighting with their opposites, but not with the individuals. On the other hand, the state also worked for its own voters to increase access to the social media because they need social media as their opposites. Infrastructure works has been accelerated for the spread of the internet in Turkey. Especially after Gezi Park, as the use of social media has increased, the conflict on the street has taken over the social media in Turkey. Then finally, the coup attempt of July 2016 provided the pretext for wiping the media slate clean. The Gülen movement, maybe you heard about it, bore much of the burden, but the impact spread throughout society. Some 160 media outlets were summarily shuttered, and the number of journalists and media workers imprisoned ballooned over 150 as the government went after not only Gülen movement, affiliated media, but others as well, and other individuals as well. So throughout this decade, social media and citizen journalism have offered some prospects of escaping from the AKP's watchful eye. But after an early period, when the government appeared uncertain about how to deal with online and social media, marked notably by the blocking of Twitter and YouTube in spring 2014. The AKP developed a more sophisticated approach after that. A mix of tactics combining aggressive propaganda, forcing social media companies to filter content, occasional platform blocking, and frequent prosecutions of users has updated the Turkish state's practice of enforcing taboos for this digital age. And the most vibrant source of information for society in Turkey was social media platforms. The most used platform was Twitter. Today, the most used platform for debate is Twitter, and YouTube is also using by people. But with the increasing the usage, Twitter users started getting information from the echo chambers, which explained us Bill Dutton. Thank you for that explanation. In this echo chambers and through filtered bubbles. However, fake users called trolls, AKP trolls, started to enter these rooms. So the hate speech, hate language has been spread as rapidly as social media. The result is an online environment where information circulates, but users are often fearful of commenting on it, where some journalists still report, but now they are likely to be prosecuted if they do. And the common Turkish joke in social media in response to someone posting critical news is to remind them that it's called in Silivri. Silivri is a province in Turkey, which a jail prison there, a reference to the maximum security prison outside of Istanbul. Individuals have started to afraid with that AKP trolls attacks, and a kind of auto-censorship also started. Today, the freedom of speech is under pressure of auto-censorship, actually, not under the pressure of state. At the same time, the state has started to fight with social media platforms under the name of economic reasons, but this was a cover. State wasn't, and also today now not happy with Twitter and its freedom approach. But the major problem was the closing the trolls account by Twitter. And now let's look a new survey about Turkey. 69% of the participants are concerned with the effect of censorship in Turkey. But as you remember, I called that this is a kind of auto-censorship. Within this group, the top concern was the usage of censorship to cover up the human rights abuses, which is our very important problem, relations between EU countries, followed by the prevention of fair elections. In the meantime, 31% of respondents didn't feel concerned at all about the censorship. And 51% of all the people who participate in this survey felt that censorship impacts their day-to-day information consumption activities, while 23% of them felt censorship didn't affect their lives. A further 26% stated that they were not sure about the implications of censorship in their lives. Attitudes towards censorship epitomize some other striking discrepancies with the Turkish public. Those who expressed that they were very concerned about censorship and didn't trust TV and radio. The majority of them, 56% relied on the internet as a source of information. On the other hand, the survey participants who expressed that they were not concerned about censorship favored TV and radio as their most preferred media outlets, which belongs one or two media network. One of them is Demirören, etc. When asked if they felt the news from government outlets like Demirören media, A News was balanced, the most dominant answer was not balanced at all, marked by 34% of the participants. On the other hand, 15% of respondents felt these outlets portrayed the news in a very balanced way. Survey reflects that these sentiments, as a large proportion of the participants are aware of the oligarchic structures in both public and private media outlets. You see the Sabah Group, Demirören Group, A News, they all belong to the Turkish Green capital, actually. News consumers are increasingly critical of the concentration of media ownership, and it's a central reason why many lost trust in the news. Yes, I try to finish in minutes, and if you have some questions about Turkey, I'll try to answer the questions. Thank you very much for being here and the other speakers. Mr. Can Bilgili, you may close it.
Interesting, challenging report and Turkish context. And I have got, for me personally, two questions. My first question, so does your president, Mr. Erdogan, conduct his Twitter or Facebook account in your country?
By his own, you mean?
Your president of your country, Mr. President, conduct his own account on Twitter, on Facebook?
No, actually, he has some communication advisors.
Okay, understand. It's impossible to ban Mr. Erdogan on Twitter. Okay, it's like joke, but now
actually, Mr. Erdogan doesn't need control his Twitter account because he is controlling everything.
Okay, I see, I understand. Okay, please, colleagues, questions. Have you got any questions? And I would like to see, please, have you got any questions?
Alona, can I have a question?
Okay, Ilya, please. Ilya Bykov, Moscow, St. Petersburg,
St. Petersburg, Russia.
St. Petersburg,
my question actually deals with the problem of, reaction in Turkey on this situation with Trump being banned by social media. And was this reaction in Turkey was like in Russia, and then some pro-Kremlin official officials and ideologists found themselves together with oppositional leaders. They criticize this decision and see it as a threat for freedom of speech. Was it the same in Turkey, or it was different and some official propaganda not criticized, or something else? Thank you.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. Maybe Ali can answer, but firstly, I can say something. As you know, there are a lot of politicians with ambitions. And in Turkey, you can find a lot of ambition politicians. And unfortunately, they can prefer to not speak this problem because it depends on opinion, politician opinion, because they are power, they are manage all like your country maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure, but they are managing everything in this country, unfortunately, and they don't need to speak, to explain, and most probably they can continue like this. And according to me, there are two lifestyle, opinion, whatever word in the world, in this world, in this age. There are two words as lifestyle or opinion or freedom, whatever. And we are in the new age, maybe, but we live in the past. In the past, in the dark opinions. As you know, can you understand me?
Not really. I'm asking about the reaction to the Trump ban in social media.
Yeah.
And what was that reaction by official
not
media?
Official reaction. Not official reaction.
No reaction.
No reaction. Yes.
Wow.
Because they want to continue like this. In Turkey, in Turkey, they want to like this.
Okay. Thank you.
It is normal for them.
I see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Even WhatsApp is banned in Turkey. I know such application. Okay, Ali, please. Mm-hmm.
AKP speak person stated a very weak opposition to the Twitter, but I am at the same idea with Can Bilgili. It was a very big explanation about the Trump case, Trump ban. And the social media users also separated to 50-50, who are accepted the Twitter's decision, and some of them was opposite of it, because the Turkish people and the government actually not happy with Trump. So it was an opportunist reaction. All the people in Turkey, both in right or left side, was waiting the presidency of Biden. we elect two presidents, as Turkish people. One is our president, one is the USA president. But I want to tell you a joke about the Trump ban in our social media, and we call that at the years ago, we were a small America. But now we see that America is small Turkey. So it was a joke on social media. Actually, people anger with Trump. Yes, that's correct. But people more than anger with Twitter, because Twitter is, we are discussing Twitter and its freedom approach, and especially in Turkey, we have a real woman inequality, and AKP trolls and hate speech, hate language, and Twitter has not banning the attacks to the women in Turkey. Because of that, people in Turkey very angry with Twitter, but they have to use it.
Thank you. I see the difference because in Russia, Twitter is, well, almost not significant social media. So thank you very much for your answer.
You're welcome.
There. Yeah,
thank you very much.
Let's follow our agenda. Thank you very much for our Turkish speakers. And now it's Ukraine again. And it's also a great pleasure for me to introduce Viktor Nikolaevich Sherbina. Viktor Nikolaevich is a philosopher and sociologist and the founder of the theory of net society within the Ukrainian context. And now, Viktor Nikolaevich, are you here? Так, Виктор, microphone, please, turn on your mic, please. Viktor Nikolaevich, initiate your microphone. Да, yes, he speaks in Russian. Посмотрите, I don't see the speaker. And camera, please. Виктор Николаевич, я прошу вас включить микрофон и камеру. Я не вижу и не слышу. Вы тут есть? I'm sorry that I'm speaking in Russian. Нету, да, его? Нету. Okay, let's go from, okay, but what to do? Okay, let's go to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Professor Dr. Marina Shilina with the report, A Platform with the President Discourses of the New Ordnung on Data Capitalism. Professor Shilina, she is Professor of Digital Communication at Plekhanov Russian University of Economics and Lomonosov State University Faculty of Journalism and Scientific Director at the National PR Award Silver Anchor. And she is founder and current Program Committee Director of International Scientific Conference, such as National School of Communication on the Global Context. Marina, you are deeply welcome to deliver your report. Please initiate also your mic.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Hi, dear Professor Garoshka, dear colleagues. Thank you for having me here. And the main question of the Zoom conference is about freedom of expression. Is it on the net? Is it good or challenging or evil? My three short answers are no, no, no. But this topic and this direction of researchers gives me a chance to find really new for me direction of researchers connected with digital data-driven freedom. In fact, freedom of expression on the net, because my research area is connected with digital communication, data economy, data-driven society, and data colonialism society. And to my mind, this topic, this case of a president and a platform, not only Trump and Twitter and other platforms, other messengers, is deeply connected with the new stage of transformation of capitalism, imperialism, etc., etc., etc. So my keywords for now. I just run my presentation. Sorry. Oops. Sorry. It's the last. Excuse me. Just a moment. Oh. Sorry. Oh. So, my keywords are net, of course, platform economy, user freedom of expression, and revolution. I use some pics and some cartoons and some metaphors because in our post-modernity there is no correct definition for any issue. So I change in the time of my research, I change a little bit my topic, and I should talk about the concept of data-driven freedom as a new order on data capitalism, if you want. So, in this short presentation, I want to describe the situation with Twitter as a platforms and Mr. Trump as a conflict and as a case of a specific communication situation and model. The methodological issue of communication situation is connected with the newest examples of AR and VR, and with a new model of interaction between actors on the net in digital sphere. And our actors, as Professor Dalton said, I know the first session, are connected with public, private, and social digital communicators, both economical and political. And the specific essence of freedom of expression on the net is connected not only with so-called regular actors, and President Trump in this case is just a regular actor, and only then he is a president and political actor as well, but with net platforms as quasi-actors, and this freedom of expression is essential element of communication model. And it's a human right in this information sphere. And I think it would be interesting to analyze communication model on Twitter as it is, with the data of the newest Pew Research materials published just in the middle of January this year, 2021, and in connection with quadrihelix of deified economy, which describes platform economy and its actors, and transformation of this freedom of expression, especially in the situation of so-called data colonialism, which it was described by Nick Couldry and Ulises Mejias in their books a year ago. And I would like to take you into discussion about the essence of this platform-driven freedom of expression on the net in this situation as a I think, dramatically new type of net-driven freedom. And I try to explain that it's a really revolutionary transformation of platform from economical to political actors. And this is really a new situation to my mind. This direction connected with situation of freedom of expression on the net as a specific research area, digital freedom of expression. I think is really new. There are only few researchers connected with social effects in data-driven practices in societies and data colonialism and digital and platform state strategies, for instance, in Russia, are not so deeply connected on the conceptual level with the freedom of expression. But in general, researchers have not paid special attention to clarifying this phenomenon of the digital freedom. And I think it would be very interesting, and it would be a topic for a broader, deeper research. So my research questions here and design of this short research and methodology are connected with communication situation with actors, and I use three approaches. First of all, modeling, and then multi-leveled and systematic analysis, which helps us to clarify the situation. Three questions are connected with the roles and the essence of communication of all the actors. First of all, of regular users on the net as a subject of political communication, and the freedom of expression of platforms as itself, because they are the core actors and so-called quasi-subjects of communication. It was described in one of my researches several years ago, more than 10 years ago. Our colleagues Ilya, for instance, and Sergey are connected in this situation because we are in contact. It is described as a situation of quasi-actors who are on the net. Platforms of these quasi-actors in every model, and it means that freedom of expression by region or a priori is impossible. But let's try to analyze this. And here you can see the very symptomatic picture of Pinocchio is model of and a very simple image of a liar in a fairy tale, a Western fairy tale. But in Russia we have the same fairy tale written by Alexei Tolstoy, and to my mind is clarify this metaphor of Buratina, in Italian as Pinocchio, it means a Muppet. It clarified the situation with net actors, platforms in a platform economy as an actors of and quasi-actors in this communicative situation. Because the main questions in every communication is the old ancient question of lawyers, qui prodest, and it means that we need to find actors interessant in this communicative situation. So, about Buratina, just a few words. Alexei Tolstoy, he was a very famous Soviet author and a comte, as all the Tolstoy family, wrote the story about a wooden Muppet, which wanted to find the golden key. And in fact, with his friends, Muppets, they found at least this specific golden key and find a Muppet show for them. And why Tolstoy write so simple story? because Pinocchio, which wanted to be a human being and to be really human, a personal, was more interesting. We have one person more. So Daddy Carlo, the dad of this Buratino, and in times of Daddy Stalin as a dad of nations, it was a very clear story about actors, invisible actors, or visible, who are the owners of this theatres of many Muppets in the Soviet Union. So our question is, in this situation of this conceptual analysis of data-driven, datified freedom of speech, is a qui prodest, and we try to answer it in the case of social networks and platforms from the point of view of regular users and in the political discourse. Platform and platform economy is the very simple situation in a few words. In this case, the freedom of expression is not a part of economical models. But if we analyze it, as I did, we found the very interesting moment that in this model, freedom of expression as an essential element, which means variety of choice, it's prohibited, in fact, because of these quasi-actors, the owners of platforms. In this case, media, platforms as media, as an economic factories, I should say, are not interested in variety of choice for the users. It's simple, but it's a priori in this type of communication. When we analyze the case of Twitter, we find several periods in its development. First, in 2015, it was just a sort of joke because, for instance, Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush traded insults on it, their illness. And then after Trump, they attempted to make borders policy, and then, in fact, this story of ban the president means that now it is not only economical platform actors, but the case of Trump is the first attempt to make a political invasion, I should say, in this situation. When we have a look on the results of Pew Research, which is published on mid-January this year, we could see this disbalance of top Twitter authors and users. And in fact, when we say about political stories and about balance of Trump supporters, you could see some figures. For instance, 88% are for the president, for this ban, and only 41 say that is wrong. In fact, in statistics, it means that it is about 50-50 to my mind. And also, when we analyze Vox Politic and Populi, we should say that differences between regular users and the majority of Americans are very interesting. the big percentage of Americans say that social media campaigns really have impact on the situation. And only 75% says that firms or companies, platforms, in fact, should not remove such content. This is very interesting to my mind. And what is a model of communication in the case of, sorry if Trump is like in Russian. I think that this model means that in the case of Trump, the situation is like every time in history. Because, for instance, when media in the times of Great French Revolution in the 18th century was just an instrument for the new class, in this case, media is a new class as it is. And it's interesting, I should say. So, is freedom of expression a good challenge or evil or revolution? I think it's a topic for further discussion and research. Here are some references, and thank you for your questions. Let's be more expressive.
Much for very extremely interesting report, Marina. And I have got a question for you personally. Trump is an ordinary Twitter user or not? What do you think?
I think as every president, he has no time for specific activity, media activity. But as an expressive person, it makes it from time to time by himself. In the case of Obama, he said in China, as I understood, that he never wrote on his social media.
To Marina Shilina, please, have you got, I don't see.
Ilya, you always have questions.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Any questions to, please?
Olyona,
Ilya,
if you
please
allow.
get the floor.
Yeah, of course I have a question, but my question is rather simple because from your presentation, I understood that you think that freedom of speech is in danger because of these platforms, digital platforms, big IT companies, which can, censor, censor everything. And but there is an idea of antitrust regulation, and I think there is a big chance that Facebook will face this antitrust regulation very soon. What do you think about this?
Oh, people in St. Petersburg are different from people from Moscow. We are more merchants historically and more economical people. So my idea is that there is no chance for freedom because platform communication is just economical communication, first of all. And now the case of Trump is a sort of litmus paper for the first steps in politics as political actors. And of course, for economical for corporation, freedom of speech and variety is not needed. As a specialist and a PR CEO with our Forbes guys for 10 years, I know what does it mean when political and economical situation in corporation is connected with freedom of speech, with freedom, etc., etc. So
But there is a counter argument to your point of view, because, for example, Twitter banned Trump ultimately, but in several days he restored his archive because it's a public company and Twitter started to lose public value. So that's a business decision also. So if you have some pluralism in IT companies and IT platforms, where will be still chance for freedom of speech, so to speak.
My explanation is rather different, because even in case the Twitter loses, it means that it is ready to lose for this political improvement, for this political story. Why not? Because it means that it's another stage, another level of its development as an actor in platform economy. And if you have a talk, for instance, and we have time maybe for talk about the law regulation in America, especially because in constitution and special chapters of the law, blah, blah, blah, a number like this, it is prohibited to be a monopoly, and is at the very beginning of the last century, it was the same story with oil companies. And for now, it's not a story for state regulation. Twitter and other platforms are private companies. There is no story for connecting with them for censorship in this case.
I see Bill want to add something.
Okay, Bill, please. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Alina.
Thank you, Ilya.
I'm also pessimistic about the future of freedom of expression because of platformization, and I think the platformization of the internet has been a gift to governments, because when the public says we want no hate speech, or we want none of this or none of that, they've never known how to deal with that because the internet is just impossible. But now with platforms, they know that they can go to Google and to Facebook and Twitter and say, stop that, make that go away. Or you're going to be fined tremendous amounts, or you're going to lose, in China, you'll lose the license or whatever. So the platforms have been a gift to censors, and it gives politicians an answer to what they've been looking for forever. And so it's not good. But isn't there a possibility? I see the only possibility is undermining these platforms, basically finding other architectures that will.
And this stories with the new architecture of technical on the technical level makes it possible. But then the examples, for instance, of China and Russia with a specific regulation makes it unreal. And I think we have no information, correct information about the real story of connections of politicians and platforms. But platform economy is a fact, and data colonialism is a fact. So let's be optimistic.
And go forward. Okay, thank you. And now it's a very interesting also case, and I am delegating the floor to the speaker from Belarus. and Belarusian context, and I would like to present Alexei Lastutsky with the report about freedom of speech on the internet through Belarusian, perspectives. And Dr. Alexei Lastutsky, he is a senior lecturer of sociology at Polotsk State University and senior research fellow at Political Sphere Institute, Belarus, Lithuania. And he works on topics of national identity and historical memory in Belarus and Central Eastern Europe. Please, Alexei, you are welcome.
Thank you, Elena, for inviting me to participate in this discussion. Also, initially, I was puzzled because I do not consider myself as a great expert on American politics. My opinion on the proposed issue is of little value. But then I had in my mind, what if I tell you about Belarusian perspective, since the issue of censorship of social networks has arisen here for a long time with some social effects. So you may be interested to hear about it. And I would like to share the presentation with you. Okay. Do you see it? Yeah. So at first, I would like to make a little introduction and just to present here a couple of research results on the popularity of social networks in my country in recent years. Unfortunately, there is no consistent data of one origin, so it would enable us to speak with confidence on it, but we can make some comparisons. And so you can see here that media market in Belarus is significantly focused on Russia. For example, most popular social networks are Russian created of ВКонтакте and Одноклассники, classmates. But you can see some changes, and one of most important trends is the growth of international networks. For example, you can see here in the right side of the slide with data from December of 2020, and growth of popularity of networks like Facebook or Instagram and is noticeable. And if we talk about messengers, so you can see most popular messengers in Belarus, and you can see tendency of growth of popularity of Telegram from 35% to 56% in 2 years.
Alexei, please, I am sorry, please make bigger so display, please. Post screen bigger, please. Okay, okay, yes.
Okay. Do you see it now? Irina?
Very good, it's okay, now it's okay.
Okay, so you can see here growth of popularity of Telegram from 35% and to 56%. So it like became a second most popular messenger in Belarus. In such shift, I personally see the result of censorship actions associated with the wave of protest after presidential elections on August 9, 2020. I myself flew to Belarus, to Minsk International Airport on the morning of August 10th, and at the airport I read terrible news about violent clashes and mass arrests, but upon arrival to the country, a blissful internet silence awaited for me. For the next few days, internet in Belarus was almost completely blocked. Only websites of state news portals were opening. And in the future, during the days of mass marches, the entire mobile internet was further blocked. And what did it lead to Belarus? Such cruel censorship. First, the massive distribution of VPN services that bypass blocking. Second, a complete transformation of the coordination of protests, from which traditional political structures were excluded. And the main coordination role for the protest marches was taken by Next Leaf Telegram channel. For example, it has 1.5 million subscribers. You can compare it with 300,000 of subscribers for Navalny Telegram channel. And authors of this channel, Nexta, are located in Poland. And this channel performs a dual function, coordinating activity and media presentation of the protests. However, as Belarusian authorities like to do, they like to present that protest is simply inspired from outside by forces hostile to Belarus. But in fact, we are talking about permanent protest activity, and it needs coordination mechanism that would be beyond the control of Belarusian security forces. And practice has shown that with all arrests, blocking, and bans, there are effective coordinating tools. So I would like to quote here, mobilize survey data from August 11 of 2020. And you see that Telegram became most trusted news source for Belarusians, especially for people who take part in protests. And they, almost all of them use internet, social media to take part in such kind of actions. Telegram was adopted by a new wave of local chants when another wave of dispersal of coordination of protests over chats of local communities took place. And Belarusian security forces still see protests as a hierarchically ordered activity that is directed from outside. And the main task is to localize and to destroy the, eliminate coordinators. But this vision has lagged behind by a generation. We are talking about the fact that the protest is already turning into some kind of postmodernist rhizoma, where there is no single trunk, when one conservation is enough, where any initiative person can start the wave of actions. And what conclusions can be drawn in relation to the main issue of today's discussion if we take into account this fresh Belarusian experience? Yes, it is tempting to regulate internet through censorship. And you can see a quote from Fresh Talk by Lukashenko, who make calls to regulate internet, social networks more, and we are waiting for new legal regulations. But anyway, situation is now that hundreds of people who are in prisons, not only for taking part in protest at the streets, but just after for their words in internet. But if Americans want to build a second Belarus for themselves, it is their own business. Purpose of my presentation is to show that we still think hierarchically, but the future belongs to network structures. So in the fact, shutting down Trump's social network account is like a tactics from the past. It's not from contemporary situation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Alexei, for your very extremely interesting report, and long live Belarus, Хай живе Belarus, and my emotional support to your people in your country, of course. And please, questions concerning events or through Belarusian context. Colleagues, I would like maybe any questions? No, I don't see any questions, but for me it was very interesting, like as a linguist, because you used new term, Telegram revolution, and I think what will be the next term concerning social media, what platform is used for revolution. Okay, thank you very much. And now we have got our next speaker, Professor Dr. Ilya Bykov. The topic is Donald Trump and the fake news agenda in social media. Professor Bykov is Doctor of Political Sciences. He presents St. Petersburg State University Graduate School of Journalism and Mass Communications. Please, Dr. Bykov, please get the floor.
Alena, thank you for the introduction. Now I start my presentation, and actually it's very short, at only several pictures, and there are so many topics were covered already. So I'm going to focus on one topic. It's the agenda of fake news in social media and how it will influence the situation. And I would like to start from the supporting of Sergei Davidov report that in Russia, majority of politically well motivated people are activists. They all usually well criticized this Trump ban in Twitter and other social media. And here you can see my little survey in Vkontakte. It's almost 90% of participants think that this is not okay from freedom of speech point of view. And in Facebook, you can see here more voters and also the same result. And actually I run a little group, or well, discussion group in Facebook, which is called Political PR in Russia and abroad, and all participants, almost, well, 90%, they think that it's not okay for the freedom of speech in the United States and well, worldwide, I would say, because in Russia there was a strange situation then. Navalny and Putin agreed on this question that this ban is not okay. That's a very strange situation. Then opposition and Kremlin united in this topic. But some of respondents who think that it's okay, they mentioned that there is a long history of fake news, and the fight with fake news by social media, and but in particular by Facebook and Twitter, because after the elections of Donald Trump, and here you can see in this picture a report from the first press conference by Donald Trump, and here he named Russia as a fake news, and he used to use very often this term fake news. However, you know that this term fake news was known from 19th century, and it was usual to have this well, news and fake news. But today, with social media, we have a new meaning in this term, because fake news obviously is a phenomenon, well, in modern sense, is a phenomenon of social media, and they are adopted to social media environment. They use algorithms to spread faster and well, to engage with more audiences than ordinary newses. And after the election of Donald Trump, there are many studies in this field, and let me just mention one of them. This is a study of fake news in Europe, and usually the correct word actually is misinformation, because misinformation unites fake news and some news with incorrect facts and so on. But in this study, the authors, they studied spread of information from mainstream media and so-called fake news media, and they found that if we are talking about news sites, so websites, ordinary websites. So, for example, here is in Italy, Le Figaro, Le Monde, and other mainstream medias. They have a fine share of public in France, but if you look here on the left bottom corner, you can see that in Facebook, some fake news media or media which were found spreading these news, they got more attractions, and they are more active than mainstream media or quality media. And my idea here is that fake news and misinformation in social media got more attention from the public, and they have some influence. And also, there was a huge investigation about Russian interference to the election of Mr. Trump, and there was some parliamentary report and so on. And here in Russia, there is a good example of fake news media. It's called Panorama Information Agency. here is the screenshot from today. And here you can see with small letters that it's satiristic edition, satiric, I'd say humoristic editions, humoristic media. But here you can see one of the news is that in United States, there will be an impeachment to Trump, and the senators will vote by post. And it looks like normal news, but of course it's absolutely irrelevant information. And here is a funny news that all protesters which were held in Moscow yesterday, they will work their duties in building the palace of Mr. Putin in Gelendzhik, and so on. So it's basically the not real news, but if you will see how many shares and likes and so on they got in social media, it's a rather big amount. For example, RIA News has about 100 shares maximum, but these Panorama Newses, they got several thousand shares in social media immediately. It's like a plague, informational plague, and some COVID, informational COVID, I would say. And of course, Facebook and Twitter, after the win of Trump in the previous elections, they decided to fight or combat misinformation in social media. And there is a huge section of Facebook corporate website where they described how they fight this misinformation. But some users, they would say that this is a censorship, not a fight with misinformation, but censorship, and Facebook censors actually points of view, not fake news. And here, if we go to this link, there is a nice test. Can you be a Facebook moderator or censor to operate as a censor, and which post you censor or not? It's just for your information. And excuse me, I don't know how to go. And here you can see some examples of how Twitter worked the posts of President Trump. Then he was still active in office, and you can see that there are many of his tweets were marked as probably not proved by facts, and some or all of the content disputed and might be misleading. So my point is that there was a huge history between this blocking and the role of misinformation was very huge, and fake news became a very famous, very important word and important topic to discuss too. Of course, I completely agree with Professor Dutton that it was unfortunate and it was unwise to block Mr. Trump, President Trump, for Twitter and for freedom of speech. And I'm also afraid of platforms as a force to stop freedom of speech. worldwide, in the United States and in Russia and everywhere. But my point is that still there is an opportunity to improve situation, and it's up to politicians, I think, for new American administration also to try to regulate digital platforms and to influence them. Of course, digital platforms benefits from the modern digital communications, mostly, not mass media as we know them, like some mainstream media, I mean. But well, still there is an opportunity to all interested people, political activists, to try to understand how media works, how digital communications works. It's media literacy, and some new platforms, I would say, to protect freedom of speech are required. And well, of course, I'm not a big optimist about the future of freedom of speech, but still there are some opportunities to fight for freedom of speech. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much for this wonderful report. And I understand to the notion, when I am hearing you, I remember about the notion of digital divide, and I am speaking skills, digital divides concerning skills, media literacy skills, etc. It's critically important in order to estimate the situation with, of course, and with freedom of speech on the net. Okay, any questions? Please, if you have got, you're welcome. It's a couple of questions. Есть вопрос? You got any questions? Okay, everybody tired, but we have got, of course, our last speaker. Our last speaker, it's Mr. Imran Ijaz, his report is Fifth Generation War, Social Media Rule and Role. Mr. Imran Ijaz, it's Washington, USA. He's a social activist, writer with strong views about dictatorship, and he's also fully aware about Russian, Ukrainian, American, and European current geopolitical situation. Please, Imran, you are welcome. Please. Okay, Imran, please. We don't hear you. Не слышно спикера. No, Imran, something problem with your sound. We don't hear you. As for me, I don't hear. No sound. Please, yes, he initiated microphone, I see, but no sound. Imran, do you hear me? Yes, but alas, I don't hear you. Maybe something with, no. Please try another device, maybe, but maybe or reload. I don't know what to do in this situation. One, two, three, no sound. Let's wait a couple of minutes, but let's try again, maybe. It's technology, and now we must speak about, so to say, technologically biased world in this case, but Imran, no sound, alas, no sound. We don't, something problem with, Does anybody hear Imran? Because I don't hear. Write down for me. No sound, yes? Giovanni, no sound, yes? Okay, no sound. I don't know what to do in this situation, but without sound, it's, please, no sound, no sound. Maybe you can speak through your mobile phone, Imran. Maybe let's try again from mobile, not from office desk computer. Maybe let's try. Yes, please connect through mobile phone. Maybe it will be better. Just a minute. I'm sorry, but you see, technologies and based on technologies, it's not very good. Sometimes.
This is the power of platforms.
Yes, this is a power of platform. Illustrates rather clearly the situation.
It's very simple.
Yeah. And I guess that Imran can speak from Pakistan, and he speaks about internet connection in this region. And for me, it's, I don't know, just let's wait. Maybe through mobile. It's our last speaker, that's all for today. But for all speakers, I have got the time to speak also. For all speakers, I will provide the link to the Facebook record and to YouTube channel also. And after our, so to say, we have got 3 rounds online sessions. The first was delivered about media and impact of coronavirus. This session concerning impact of banning Trump and within coronavirus, of course, impact. And the next table I would like to organize devoted the impact of corona to education, and then to prepare maybe a full collection of papers and edited and printed these materials in, so to say, in paper, not only in digital format, but I will also disseminate all information. And where is Imran? Yes, Imran. No, oh, yes, it's Imran. Yes, Imran, please, you are here, okay, I see you, let's go. But something without sound, also the same, no sound.
Hello?
Oh, hello, it's okay, Oh,
George.
okay.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much, my dear Madam host, Aloyna, for you gave me chance to participate this wonderful discussion. And also I see all the speaker, they are ultimately all is very senior compared to me, and I also read and I also view the presentation as well. You are hear me? Hello?
Yes.
So as far as regarding the topic about the media, social media, as far as concern about the Donald Trump, why they are banned the Facebook and tweet, but I think it's my personal view. They are not ban the Donald Trump because they ultimate follow the instruction by the authorities, because freedom of this expression of freedom of the speech is very important. But when this will be important, when this will be on borderline, but when you will be cross the borderline, then ultimately they are creating the problem. So what is the freedom of the media? We can see in North Korea, we can see in China, they are ultimately understand about the what is the real problem and what is the significant problem about the social media. I give the little bit example about the some review about the 5th generation war. Maybe you all very well understand about what is the 5th generation war. Lose the battle and win the war. That is the very good article about the Nepali correspondent, I think, and they very clearly write on this: lose the battle, lose. That's mean which there was involved the military, air force, and all the equipment which all country they have for their defense and right. And about the war situation, ultimately the country will be used the social activities, propaganda, and little bit more things about how they will be interrupt and enter the nation mindset and how they will be control this. That is the problem. So that's why the social media in future, they have a very high profile value in all country geopolitical situation. So that is the reason about the social media is freedom of speech and expression. So that's why in future the social media role in very high value in your country, your democracy and dictatorship as well. Little bit I give you the one very good example how to fifth generation, how we can enter the fifth generation war. If you remember the one very good movie when its name is Transporter and 3, the hero name is Frank. This movie will be made in Odessa, Ukraine, and you know very well Frank from Britain and the girl from Ukrainian. So this movie, when you will be see, so all people when they are watching this movie, they will be understand about the what this movie will be show. This movie will be show this some foreigner will become in Ukraine and they protect the Ukrainian girl. So this type of the expression will be show in future will be nation to how they will be protect and they will be use the social media. As far as the concern about the President Donald Trump and why the tweet and Facebook is banned. So ultimately they will be understand now they are entering in the fifth generation war. So when they will be understand about their fifth generation war, so ultimately they will be banned freedom of expression and freedom of the speech. But I think in future freedom of the speech and they have a very high value. But ultimately they are not take the decision. This is a not decision to the Twitter and Facebook. They must be banned to Donald Trump. So ultimately they are following the instruction from some authorities. So ultimately they are banning the Mr. Trump as far as the concern about this. As far as the I think next is the I think I complete my word. I think that is the clear word about the lose the battle and win the war, and ultimately in future the social media and is one of the big pillar. But this social media is a background we can see in China, we can see in North Korea, we can see in Iran as well, where the country not have a full freedom of the rights to nation. They will be use the social media and they will be show their personal expression. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Also for all speakers, it's finished, and it's like 3 hours around online session, and it has run rather quickly, and it was for me, very interesting reports from a lot of experts. But as for me, the freedom of expression on the net, democracy, etc., it's like basic values. So concerning the development of this society. Once more, thank you for all and greetings from Ukraine. Bye-bye. And I will provide for all speakers, for all participants, the record of this online session and about the possibility to publish papers. See you soon.